what it should feel like when it comes to crowdfunding is that you are inviting your audience to get involved in helping to bring a really exciting idea to life.
Why and when really should creators consider crowdfunding?
The big piece of feedback that we get from creators is that they feel like they're asking their audience for money. And if they feel as though that is how it's coming off, or that is how it's coming off, they're not positioning the message properly.
Today on deepfeed, I chat with Brett Dashevsky, the founder of Creator Economy NYC, the premier hub connecting thousands of content creators through in-person events and insightful media. Brett has also recently been appointed as head of content creators at Kickstarter. In this role, he plays a pivotal part in bringing on new creators and supporting them as they launch their creative crowdfunding projects. In this episode, we discuss the role of crowdfunding in the creator economy today, some exciting new emerging trends, the relationship between creators and traditional media, and much more. Let's get into it. Hey Brett, welcome to deepfeed.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, can you give us some insight into your professional background and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, yeah. Love going all the way back. So, my professional life, honestly, it's taken an interesting trajectory, I guess, starting in college, I would say, when I was trying to identify what it was that I was interested in. And for a long time, I thought that like finance would be the route for me. And so I did a couple finance type internships when I was in college, and then actually took an internship on Capitol Hill, which was a really cool experience, doing some like econ stuff. And just slowly kind of realized that is not where I want to go. And the only reason that I leaned into finance world was because it's all I knew that existed, in a sense, as like, what could a career be? But like looking back, what I was always really interested in was like the creativity side of things and marketing specifically. But I just never understood what is it that you could do in marketing as a job, and what would pay well, right? If you wanted to have a certain lifestyle or live in a certain city like New York City, you wanted to make a certain salary. And so I kind of like veered away from marketing for a while. So when I graduated college, I started working for Capital One, doing like product and project management, the what's in your wallet company.
Yeah.
And I thought that maybe working there, I would lean more into like the marketing side of things and do like brand and commercial type stuff. But while I was working there, I started a newsletter with my brother called Healthcare Huddle. And so it basically was a weekly newsletter breaking down all that's going on in the world of healthcare, kind of like the morning brew for healthcare. And we actually started that right before the pandemic. And so it was like pretty interesting timing for us doing that, because we started to get a lot of interest in terms of like what's going on with COVID. And our whole thing was breaking down things very simply. So we were providing very simple information. So when I was working at Capital One, I was working from home. I just graduated college during the pandemic, so things were still really fresh. But while working from home, I had time to work on this other side venture that was just sucking me in, because I was able to do marketing and like build the Instagram and do design type stuff that I always really enjoyed doing. And here I was now in this world of entrepreneurship that like I just never knew that I would land in entrepreneurship this way. Or maybe I didn't fully understand what entrepreneurship was. Was it that I had to have like a physical product and me going door to door? Or no, here we are with like a digital media type product. So after working on Healthcare Huddle for about a year and a half, I became very intrigued with wanting to do this full time. But of course, we needed to make money to make that possible. But we ended up getting in touch with the past president of the Hustle newsletter, who just left the company after they sold to a company called HubSpot. And so there was a lot of really exciting stuff going on in this media creator world. And by the way, at the time, I didn't even understand what the creator economy was. It was just getting started. And so ultimately, Healthcare Huddle was acquired by a company called Workweek, which was basically a media and creator company. So it was a collective of industry experts with kind of building their own mini media companies around a creator. And so my brother, who was the writer of the Healthcare Huddle newsletter, would be that creator. And then I would be joining Workweek as like an operator. And so this was my time to be able to go into the creator economy full time. And so I basically took a leap from like a nice, cushy, well-paying job at a company, Fortune 500 company, Fortune 100 company, to joining a startup that has not proven itself, that was basically leaning into a whole new industry with creator-led brands and whatnot. And it ended up being a really great move. So I joined in November of 2021, and I was there for about 2 years, helping to build out new newsletter brands, and also to manage some of the talent and creators that we brought on. And once I left in November of 2023, I had this job at Kickstarter lined up. Now, to back up real quick, I was building Creator Economy NYC, which was this idea for just monthly meetups to bring together the creator economy in New York City that I started in January of 2023. And I did not think that it would turn into anything other than very simple meetups that were happening at a bar that required minimal effort from me. But over time, after doing it each month, it compounded and a lot of people started to come, and I ended up hosting like speaking type of events. So then I had this job from Kickstarter come my way that happened through one of my events. And so I ultimately was actually laid off from Workweek in November of 2023. They were going through some cuts to size down, and they were going through a fundraise. And I started to lean more into this Kickstarter opportunity and was like, I'm also going to double down on Creator Economy NYC. And ultimately kept doing that in 2024. And then in March of 2024, I joined Kickstarter as their head of content creators. And so when I look back and I'm like, how did I get into this industry? It really all started with COVID coming that enabled me to keep doing a side project that then also opened up new ideas for people like Workweek, which then I happen to align with and be where we currently are.
As the head of content creators at Kickstarter, what does that position entail?
Yeah. So Kickstarter has always been a really creator-first, creator-led company. The whole mission of the company is to bring creative projects to life. It's the world's renowned crowdfunding platform. And so there's always been creators coming to the platform to launch ideas that may not necessarily be considered or consider themselves to be content creators like we see today, like YouTubers and such, people with built-in audiences. And so with my role coming as head of content creators is to basically serve as an outreach lead to bring on content creators that are out there, YouTubers, influencers and stuff to come and launch creative projects on the platform. And also to serve as a liaison basically between the creator and Kickstarter and to advocate for their needs and what can Kickstarter do better to serve what it is that they need to better thrive and to launch better projects and to connect deeper with their audience and their community. And so I pretty much spend my days and my weeks outreaching to various creators who are on my radar that I'm researching that I think would be really great creators to launch projects on the platform, that they kind of are this certain archetype, whether they're like a STEM creator, right? They do engineering videos and such. Maybe they're animator creators and they can come on and maybe launch a card game, or they can come and launch an animated series on the platform. So understanding what projects tend to be successful on Kickstarter, who are the people that tend to come to the platform, and then what creators are out there that have the potential to launch something that would make sense on the platform and be something that's big and bold, something different. So there's a big thing in the creator economy with merch, of course, to like diversify your revenue streams.
Yeah.
But merch for a while has sucked. I mean, it's been sweatshirts, it's been t-shirts.
Right.
And while those are all well and good and may sell, they're not really developing anything unique for yourself or developing some form of IP that can help take the creator to the next level. Because the whole thing is that as a creator, you're really stuck on this treadmill of creating content routinely, hoping that the brand deals are coming in, hoping that the AdSense money from YouTube is coming in. But how do you kind of hop off of that treadmill and build something that can be generational and help you transcend the platforms? Well, Kickstarter in and of itself is that, where you can come and launch merch that doesn't suck, like a tabletop game, right? Maybe you want to launch like a design and tech product or something, or you want to launch an animated series. And so what Kickstarter has seen is creators, before I even joined, we're coming to the platform, right? That we're launching animated series or full-length featured films that then were like picked up by the big players like Amazon Prime. Or they came and launched tabletop games that then they were able to go and sell, on their own channels, or to go and put into the big stores like Walmart or something. We want to be the catalyst for where that happens, to come and build your thing, tap into your community to come make it happen, and then just keep building things out from there.
Why and when really should creators consider crowdfunding?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really think it varies, and it depends on what it is that you're launching. I think that crowdfunding is going to continue to become more popular within the creator economy as creators get more comfortable with tapping into their audience to bring things to life. The big piece of feedback that we get from creators is that they feel like they're asking their audience for money. And if they feel as though that is how it's coming off, or that is how it's coming off, they're not positioning the message properly. What it should feel like when it comes to crowdfunding is that you are inviting your audience to get involved in helping to bring a really exciting idea to life. And the idea should be so exciting that they actually feel compelled to want to get involved and bring that thing to life. So I think for creators who are looking to crowdfund, it's about when they're looking to diversify and really expand themselves and transcend themselves beyond the platform. So generally, like when your channel, let's say you're talking about a YouTuber, their channel's starting to mature, they have a couple 100,000 or millions of subscribers. They've been getting a lot of frequent, AdSense money in. They have their thing with brand partners, but now they're looking to go to the next level. And so we've seen it with like Mr. Beast launching Feastables and a number of his ventures. We've seen Emma Chamberlain, right? She launched a coffee brand. So what can other creators do in a similar nature that maybe isn't just a CPG product, but it's something more unique and something niche enough that their fans feel really excited about getting involved in? So probably once things start to mature for you as a creator and you are actively thinking about that revenue diversification or brand diversification, does it make sense to now lean into crowdfunding? And that's why Kickstarter, when I'm looking for content creators, it is trying to find those creators who perhaps have sold something before, right? And they have that experience of selling something to their audience, or they've worked with a big enough brand partner where they had to like integrate that into their content. And also they have content that could line up nicely with launching a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah. Do they ever ask you when you help onboard them, are they ever lost? Like, well, I have no idea what product to make or, what should I do?
Yeah, 100%. And a big thing that we offer and that is really unique about this program that we're building out for content creators at Kickstarter is that we want to help ideate with you. So you have myself and another contact at the company to literally sit down and ideate things with you. And so what we'll basically do is at a high level, understand what type of content do you create, who are the type of people in your audience, what historically has like done well on the platform that you could do really well and also make really big. And the thing that we like to say is that content creators coming to Kickstarter are already starting on crowdfunding on third base. They already have a built-in audience, right? People know who they are. They know what they're about. So now you're on third base. Leverage the Kickstarter platform and our resources to bring it home and to create something really big and exciting. So you're tapping into your own audience, but also Kickstarter is a platform. We have a community of millions of people over the past 15 years who have backed certain project ideas. So we will connect your project, right, with those people through our newsletters, through our website, through our channels to kind of help bring in maybe a whole new audience that didn't even know that you existed or your project that you're launching existed. So that's basically what we'll do. We'll help ideate. We'll think about past projects and try to connect it to them while also keeping in mind that we want to build something that's unique and also something that they are excited about bringing to life.
Yeah. You've mentioned thinking about, products that have done well on the platform before. And I'm curious if there is a common denominator with types of products and projects that launch on Kickstarter that are successful.
Yeah. It really depends. But statistically speaking, I mean, tabletop games tend to perform really well. And there's a diehard fan base in that area. Design and technology products tend to also do really well. I mean, if you're thinking back to Kickstarter historically, you've had design and tech products like Peloton initially launched on there. Oculus, that was then acquired by Meta, originally launched on there, just to name a few. Then you have card games like Cards Against Humanity, right, launched on there, amongst a ton of different wonderful products. Books also tend to do really well. The popular fantasy author Brandon Sanderson launched Kickstarter's largest and most successful campaign ever. He launched like a surprise three books during the pandemic time, and he raised $42 million from his audience. Wow. So it just shows you, like, if you already have like a leaned in audience and leaned in fan base, what you can do through crowdfunding, in a sense. So again, we'll advise based on what we've seen perform really, really well on the platform. And also if a creator has a certain idea, what we find is unique about content creators is that they have a very high possibility of something unique and something that may not even be like a clear category on Kickstarter to performing well because they already have that built-in audience. So maybe like a creator wants to come and like launch like I don't know, like a horse racing arena or something like that. We haven't really seen something like that on Kickstarter, but we're willing to come and try it. It doesn't necessarily fall into any one of our specific categories, but that's what's unique about content creators is that they can bring those unique and novel ideas that are like novel to the platform and still set them up for success because they have their own distribution. And also Kickstarter has the resources and the tech to bring that crowdfunding to life.
I'm curious, what are some common misconceptions or objections you get from creators when you do reach out to them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, as I mentioned, beyond this, the aspect that I said before about them feeling as though they're asking their audience for money, right? That's more of a messaging thing. A lot of creators feel hesitant because they may feel as though they don't need to leverage a crowdfunding platform to bring something to life because they already have money in the bank. But the big thing is that Kickstarter and crowdfunding, it's not just a play for getting funds. It's also a marketing method because the crowdfunding campaigns are gamified because they only last maybe 30 or 45 days. And so you're driving this hype about this thing that you want to bring to life. So there's that aspect. So perhaps you're doing more marketing and content around a certain project or product that you're launching than you would have if it was just through like your Shopify and you're just like, hey, I launched this thing. You can also tap into the depths of fandom when you're a creator. So let's say a creator is launching a tabletop game. They're not just selling the game, let's say for $25. There's reward tiers on Kickstarter. So they can actually identify who are their top fans or are most interested in this thing through the reward tiers dependent upon how many SKUs they have. So maybe like there's something that's $500 and it's the tabletop game. It's like a premium version, but also they get like a cameo from the creator themselves. The people who are buying that are likely your top fans, right? Or your top, fanatics about this product that you're building. And so there's also like an audience ownership and understanding play that comes through Kickstarter. So that's probably one of the other bigger misconceptions that we have. Some creators also feel as though they don't have a idea in mind that would be suited for crowdfunding. But back to what I was saying before, any idea is possible on the platform with the right messaging and the right promotion of the thing. And when done right, it could be immensely successful for a content creator because they're already starting on third base when it comes to crowdfunding.
What role do you think Kickstarter and crowdfunding play in the creator economy?
Yeah. So again, as I said before, the creator economy is kind of entering this like more mature time period. We're about 5 years into the creator economy kind of being recognized as a real thing. And a lot of creators who have been creating since maybe the end of the 2010s are now starting to think about how can I diversify my revenue? How can I transcend myself beyond the platforms? I'm not going to be creating content forever. What can I do that can build out some IP for myself or drive the start of some future revenue and future business opportunities? And so with that, it's about creating ideas and merch and IP that can bring you to that point, that sustainability aspect. And one way to really bring that to life is through crowdfunding. So crowdfunding de-risks the thing that you're aiming to launch because you can get the money up front and you can also kind of test proof of concept before you invest a lot in building the thing. And so it's a safe route to approach. And also it's a way for audience ownership where you can capture emails and recognize who are your top fans and maybe start to build an email list out from that or continue to come back to Kickstarter or other crowdfunding platforms to bring things to life. And so again, I think slowly over time, and it's certainly something that I believe, a lot more creators are going to start to recognize crowdfunding and fan funding as a very viable medium and path for them to go down. And it starts a lot with just showing examples of top creators who are leveraging the platform and the success they're seeing, and also educating creators and their teams on why they should pursue this route as opposed to raising venture dollars because you're losing ownership over your thing, taking out loans because no one wants to be burdened by that, and also bootstrapping. It's all great, but what if you put your ego aside there and tap into this amazing audience that you've spent years building to come and bring something exciting to life? And I've seen all too often big creators have launched projects that then were flops and they invested a lot of money into them. And it's like, if you came to Kickstarter and crowdfunded for that thing, one, you could have seen early about the feedback on how people want to see this product evolve, or two, you realize that it didn't get the hype that you thought it would, and maybe we're not going to produce it. And so it's just a smart route to approach. And then again, also when it's time to launch something, I mean, driving a lot of hype and excitement around the thing comes through Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you said about using Kickstarter to actually test concepts and ideas as well
Yeah.
before you produce them at scale and make sure that there is that demand and interest there. And I think in my experience too, a lot of creators, when I bring up Kickstarter or I suggest, you should do a crowdfunding campaign, there is this notion of like, I'm going to be begging
Yep.
my audience. Like you said, like, I don't want to ask my audience for money and I don't want to beg for money. But I think if you think of it as a large marketing campaign for a big launch, it would be no different than if you just launched it direct to consumer on social. It is just a way to build, like you said, like that massive email list and build hype around it and treat it like a big marketing campaign.
Exactly. And there certainly is a bit of imposter syndrome from creators in perhaps feeling like, well, who's going to contribute to my campaign, right? And so, again, part of my role is to hype up the creator in terms of like, look at what you've built, look how lean in your audience is, look at these examples that are very similar to what you can achieve. Let's get out there, let's launch something really exciting and bring it to life. And so I'm certainly excited about the future of Kickstarter as a platform, its position in the creator economy, and the way that we can bring a ton of new and exciting projects to life, right? Like I want the next Mr. Beast thing to be launched on Kickstarter, and for our whole company to look at something like that and be like, it started here on Kickstarter. No different than when you see a Peloton out there, or Oculus, right? Or a certain film that launched on the platform and goes off and is really successful. It was like, it kickstarted here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that over the next couple months. There's some exciting launches, and also the next couple of years as crowdfunding and Kickstarter really leans in a lot more to the creator economy.
Can you share an example of a recent creator-led Kickstarter campaign that was particularly successful and how they really garnered that community support?
Yeah. So there was a really exciting campaign that launched in August from a content creator named Chris Brantley. He runs a channel called Circle Tunes HD. So it's literally a animated YouTube channel, and he kind of puts on these different segments and stuff like that, and also builds like a lot of lore around what it is that he's building. And so he came to Kickstarter to launch a tabletop game that was called Fool's Blade. And it was, I think, kind of had this like Dungeons and Dragons concept to it. And so there was this like really exciting concept that diehard fan bases were really interested in, and also his fan base was really interested in. But what also made it so successful of a campaign, it ended up raising, I think, $730,000, which is huge, right? And now he can continue to sell it on his other channels. But what made it really successful is that like you didn't need to be a viewer of his content to understand the game and to play the game and to have fun with it. But if you were a viewer, there were some nuggets in the game or like some call outs of like other YouTubers in there that like made it really fun, and then like you can find those golden nuggets. And so what made a campaign like that so successful is, one, he did a great job promoting it to his audience and like leading up, hey, we're launching this thing. We want you to be a part of it. We're really excited to bring this to life, right? So he invited his audience to like come and make this thing happen. And also he developed a really amazing game concept that tied in to kind of the ethos of his content. So there was like that value prop alignment, right? It would be weird if like he, as a YouTuber doing animated stuff, launched like a football thing. It just like there was no alignment there unless his content was about that. But because there was clear value prop alignment in terms of like the value prop of his content matched the value prop of this product, that's what made it really successful. And he also worked with an amazing team. I believe the team was Creator Inc. that helped manage this campaign.
Nice.
And so they kind of entrusted them with setting this all up and did an amazing job in terms of bringing it to life. So I love referencing that one. And I actually met Chris at VidCon at the end of June. And he was just such an enthusiastic person who advocated heavily for the platform. And also mentioned that this project of his would not have been as big as it was if it wasn't for Kickstarter. And the reason for that is because it also brought in other people to back the game, right? And to
Right.
buy the game and to be a part of it. Where he said, he's like, if I announced this game and launched it on my channel, like sure, it would have driven sales, but not nearly the amount of sales that it was able to do in such a short period of time because of the Kickstarter campaign and the platform being there to drive that hype and also to tap into the depths of fandom through the reward tiers.
I'm really curious. You mentioned VidCon. I'm curious how seemed to be some like mixed opinions this year, and like it wasn't as well attended, and like I'm just curious what your experience was like.
So this is my first time attending VidCon, and I really thought it was such an amazing time. Right, I've heard about VidCon before. I was actually able to speak on a couple panels, which was really exciting. I even hosted an event there, so it was like very exciting first time for me. But certainly I can understand that a lot of people who have been previous attendees over the past, I think it's been around for a little over a decade now, have recognized it not being as hype as it once was. And of course, I mean, it takes a lot of effort to keep something hype over the course of a decade,
Right.
let alone a conference. And so for me, I really enjoyed VidCon in that it brought together the ecosystem of the creator economy. There were industry people there, like myself. There were creators there, like Chris Brantley, who I met. And then also there were the fans. And so it's so unique in that it brings the fans and creators together, and then also the industry side of the creator economy. So I thought it was great. I'm excited for next year. They recently actually just canceled their Baltimore version, which is like their East Coast version of VidCon, to really invest heavily in their Anaheim flagship one. So I think that there's going to be a lot more that's going to come out of it come next year. And they're going to be taking in a lot of feedback over the course of the year to make sure that it's a splash. But a conference like VidCon is definitely needed. And it's a great time to bring together the whole creator economy in one place, including the fans.
Yeah. I'm curious, where do you think the creator economy is going to evolve, like even 1 to 2 years from now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna continue to see a lot of creators enter the space. There's going to be a massive grouping of kind of like this middle class of creators, right? So people who aren't like the Mr. Beasts of the world, but they're also not just like casually creating content, like they're genuinely in it. I think that we're also going to see a lot more part-time creators. I think a lot of creators are recognizing the fact that creating content is really difficult. Turning that into a business is also even more difficult. And you're not just a content creator, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, you're an operator, and you need to figure out that side of the things. And I don't think that right now the creator economy is set up yet with enough support to enable a lot of people to make that leap from part-time creator to full-time creator, right? You still need to support yourself on the healthcare side and benefit side of things. The platforms may not be advocating as much and providing you enough support there. So, very easily TikTok could be banned, right? And then all those creators lose everything that they've built. So being a part-time creator is the safe bet. And I would never advise someone to lean full-time into content creation until they are basically making their same current salary, if not more, and they foresee it being sustainable and routinely increasing before jumping into it full time.
How do you think the relationship between the creator economy and traditional media will evolve?
Yeah.
Colin and Samir, I think recently were talking about how like creators are the new Hollywood, and I'm curious what your take is on that.
I agree with that take. I think that the lines are increasingly blurring between content creators and traditional entertainment. In fact, you're seeing a lot of content creators enter traditional entertainment in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I was talking to someone about this. The creator economy kind of has this individual movement where it's like, you don't need the traditional media to go and build your thing. You can just go on YouTube and build up, your channel or build something on Instagram and TikTok, right? But a lot of people's ultimate goal is to make it into the traditional world, to be picked up by like an NBC or a Netflix, right? And to be invited to that red carpet thing. I'm not speaking on behalf of all creators, but certainly it's a dream for a lot of people to make that because it provides some form of validation.
Right.
But I think that we are increasingly seeing the lines blurring and that the traditional media is recognizing the power of content creators and they're tapping more into them. Even the freaking government is recognizing the power of creators. They're hosting their first ever White House Creator Economy Conference that I'm going to be attending, which I'm absolutely honored. Thank you. I'm honored to be attending that. But how cool that the White House is hosting this conference dedicated towards the creator economy.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's because they recognize the power of individual creators and the voices that they have that sometimes overpower traditional media. And so the gatekeepers of the world are losing their power. They're recognizing that, and they have no other option than to embrace the creator economy.
Random question, but in a article that you were interviewed in with Business Insider, you mentioned that when people think of the creator economy, they think LA.
Yeah.
And, you're here with Creator Economy NYC. Why do you think people think LA with the creator economy?
Yeah, I think just like LA has always been synonymous with entertainment and Hollywood. And so like it makes sense that that's the place to be. A lot of the big agencies are based out there. And so LA has always kind of had this stronghold on being the place for creatives, right? If you're an actor and whatnot, I'm moving out to LA. A lot of YouTubers are based out there, and rightfully so, because it's a big entertainment hub. But with my whole thing in championing the New York City creator economy, and by the way, that article was written back in December of 2023, my mindset has changed that now I think people are starting to think of New York City also as a big creator economy hub. Nice. Is because in New York, you have the creators, right? You have the creative aspect here. It's always been a big melting pot. You have the tech here. So there's a lot of tech that's being built here, and you have the capital. So you have everything you need to have a thriving economy is happening here in New York City. And also New York has really become like the short form capital of the creator economy. Like man on the street interviews are all happening in New York City. Yeah. All of that. There's a lot of short form content. You can't even scroll on your feed today without coming across maybe something taking place in New York City. And so for me, like I really want to lean into that and champion that. Like look at all the amazing stuff that's being done here. And then also how can we get a lot more YouTubers to recognize like this is a really great place to be and that they do have a community, right? They have Creator Economy NYC. We're bringing together creators and everyone in the ecosystem every single month, right? And we'll continue to evolve that. But yeah, very simply put, LA has just always been synonymous. It will continue to be. And the two biggest hubs for the creator economy are LA and New York, possibly London, right? The major cities. It makes sense so.
Definitely. You meet obviously so many creators between Creator Economy NYC and your role at Kickstarter. I'm curious if there are some common personality traits that you've noticed, particularly with the folks that are succeeding right now.
Yeah. I think that the creators who I meet who are successful or who I predict will be very successful possess the same traits as those that are like successful entrepreneurs and founders, because it's very much the same type of drive you need. You need to be incredibly dedicated to your craft and wanting to keep getting it better and be obsessed with how am I going to grow this thing. You need to be consistent and persistent in everything that you're doing. You need to show up every single day, every single week, whether it's with content, right? Or you're reaching out to clients, whatever it may be. That is going to slowly compound, and the best creators recognize that aspect. So I'd say those two things: incredibly dedicated, and they're really consistent. And they also like perhaps study the greats. A lot of creators who may study how Mr. Beast grew, or how some big Instagram influencers grew, those will be the ones that recognize kind of what is in the formula for growing. And there's no set formula, but you can kind of find themes. It's no different than some, popular entrepreneur that studied Steve Jobs and recognized what it was that he did to build a successful company. There are themes that you can pull out and then attach that into your own story and your own path.
How do you feel that creators can strategically kind of balance that creative and business aspect of the work that they're doing?
Mm-hmm. It's certainly difficult. And it's something that I deal with as like a creator myself, and also building a business, like recognizing how to ensure that I am doing the creative things, but also focusing on the fact that I want it to be a business. Because you do need to understand that you need to have a good business to fuel doing the creative stuff. There's a thing that Steve Jobs mentioned, that he understood that in order to build really amazing products, he needed a good company that would be able to do well, that he can keep doing that. And creators should be thinking the same way, that in order for me to keep doing my creative pursuits, I need to also build a good business behind it so that I can keep doing that thing. So for creators, I think it's very important to strategically set time for each of those areas. You need to have your creative time, and you need to have your business time. And you need to basically compartmentalize those things and to ensure that like you're not burning yourself out. and to really drive those things forward. But at a certain point, they kind of mesh. Like your creativity and your content, you need to focus on how can that be a revenue driver? How can I make this video be geared towards this so that we can bring in a certain sponsor? But all in all, my advice would be to start slow, kind of publish over perfect, just get things out there. You may mess up that first brand deal, or your first brand deal may not be as big as it could have been, but you need those learnings along the way. And I'm saying that as someone who has very much faced those realities, right? Like I've closed deals, which has been really exciting, but then realized like, shit, that could have probably been bigger. They accepted way too soon. And it's like, okay, well now I'll know for next time to maybe shoot something higher. And then I'll learn from there, what is that response like and how can I reach a middle ground? So it just comes through experience, but also setting dedicated time to focusing on your creative pursuits and also the business side of things.
Yeah. Do you think that the creator brand bubble will burst? Or do you think that this is something that brands are going to hold on to, like working with creators and influencers in the long term?
I predict that brands will continue to tap into creators and influencers. It's still very much undertapped right now. And a lot more dollars are going to flow into influencer marketing. And an influencer doesn't need to be someone who has 1 million followers. It could very well be someone who has 10,000 followers, even less. And you can spread out your dollars across numerous 10,000 follower people and maybe get a lot more conversion because you're dealing with creators who have a much more leaned in and intentional audience as opposed to someone who has like 10 million followers, right? Probably getting a lot more brand awareness out of that than you are people taking action. In terms of like creators launching their own brands, I think we'll start to see some saturation, like we already are. But some of them will last and be successful given that they are properly managed and run.
Right.
I mean, Mr. Beast has put in charge of his Feastables brand, like very experienced people in the industry. Granted, he's an outlier and he has the capital and resources to do that. But I think that's a brand that's going to continue to thrive because now they have the right people operating it. But a lot of creators jump into something and it fails. I wrote a story recently about Something Navy, who is a popular New York City-based influencer, and she launched her own clothing brand called Something Navy, and it failed and it flopped because it was poorly managed. She had some bad PR execution, and things just crumbled. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that as there's attempts in the space. But at the same time, I think we'll see a lot of successful products that are going to make it out alive and turn into some generational brands that perhaps may be acquired by the big players, right? Like the Nestle's of the world.
What do you think she could have done better? Like it was poorly managed, you said. Like how do you think it could have been better managed?
Well, there was a number of things. There was very poor risk management that was done. The CEO who they brought in for the company was also managing his other company at the same time. So there was like clear distraction. From what I understand, there was like a lack of transparency between the CEO of the company and Something Navy. So like she wasn't even fully aware about maybe some issues that were taking place with her company. So I think one is just like you need to have robust risk management. You need to recognize like what's going on in the market. Where are we at financially? And that just comes from having a good operator that's associated with it. And let's be real, a lot of creators aren't good operators. So that's why they bring on COOs to their teams or good managers. Transparency is huge in business in general. And even as a creator, like you want to be transparent with your team of editors, right? You want to make sure that they know what's going on and where are we at so they can be excited or step in where you need help. And I think also just herself, she kind of stopped like wearing and promoting her own clothes, which was like a lot of people were put off from that. And so it's like, if you're a creator, you want to be excited about the thing that you are launching. Like Logan Paul does a great job. He's always drinking Prime and putting it out there. And right, you got to be the evangelist of your brand. And she just wasn't doing that. And so it just led to it flopping. And she's one of many stories that, perhaps I can dig into. But yeah, it just requires a lot of hard work and dedication, and you got to treat a business like a business. And you can't rely on follower count alone. Creators who have millions of followers, it does not guarantee that whatever you're launching is going to be successful. Again, you need to operate it as a good business or it's just going to completely flop.
Yeah. What are some good metrics you think on social? Like not just follower count, but how do you know when your community is strong?
Yeah. Well, for one, I think the comment sections. I'm actually building a tool right now that is a comment section analytics tool. It's called Siftsy. It's Sift and then SY. And what we basically do is like using the power of AI, we're able to go through comment sections and extract key insights from there in terms of like what are the key topics that are being mentioned, even like assigning like a vibe score to the comment section that's based on sentiment, relevance of the comments, and like consensus in the comments. And going through a lot of creator data and kind of influencer marketer data that we're seeing being used on the platform, you start to recognize what a leaned in audience looks like. And it's that there are comments that are talking about the content that's being, done in the video. It's people that are mentioning specific things that perhaps the creator was promoting. That's how you also know is checking the engagement from a comment section standpoint and what the people are actually saying there. Because you have the engagement rate is important, likes are important, follower count's important, but like what people are actually saying in conversation tells a much more holistic story. So I'm a big advocate for the comment sections. It's where the conversations are happening. Also, shares has been a big metric that's been put out there. I know that on Instagram, Adam Asseri, who runs Instagram, talks about how they like value shares a lot. But for a creator, that may be tough for them to understand. And for like a brand, also understanding like, are the shares good or bad? Comment section is like pretty objective in terms of like what are people talking about and how routinely are they coming back to talk.
You made a post on this recently, so I wanted to ask, can you break down what you think the difference between, creatively between TikTok, Reels, and YouTube Shorts is, and how creators and brands should approach the different platforms?
Yeah. So my observation that I guess it's just been over time, but it finally hit me this morning, is that TikTok is much more trends and trends focused and relevant content, timely content focused. And then Reels and Shorts tend to be either like delayed or like repost of certain content like that, or just something completely different, like a mixed bag. And TikTok to me feels very synonymous with Twitter or X in its relevancy. And the feed does a really great job at bringing things that are timely and trending, but also very fleeting. So my advice for creators and brands is to, one, you need to understand what is my content? What is my ethos, right? And does it make sense for me to hop on a certain trend? Because I don't think brands and creators need to hop on every single trend, but if there's something that makes sense that they can align very closely, like with their value proposition, it's probably worthwhile to hop on it to ensure that you can get the wave of the algorithm and be part of what's relevant. And that's what's really exhausting for being a creator and brand, is that you're kind of on this constant treadmill of like keeping up with what's trending, what's relevant, because we are kind of at the whim, the will of the algorithm and are attached to that. And you want to, get on top of it, especially when it comes to TikTok. Now with Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, I think that you can be a bit more experimental in what's being done there. And try different formats and segments that aren't necessarily trends. So a trend that was popular on TikTok may not be worthwhile for reposting to Instagram because it may not just perform well there. And you can certainly see that a video that got 10,000 views and likes on TikTok following a trend may not perform well on Instagram at all.
Right.
So that's kind of a discrepancy that I recently came across that's just been marinating in my head for a while.
Are there any emerging trends within the creator economy at large that you're really excited about right now?
Well, certainly crowdfunding and creator-led brands I'm really excited about. I'm also really excited to see creators doing more like in real life stuff. I think that there's been a lot of this like parasocial relationship building over the past couple years where there's the creator in their individual room and then their fans and audience members that are all on the other side that build this connection with them, but the creator has no idea who they are. And if they want to lean into more in real life experiences, they get to actually meet their fans in real life. And so I'm excited about that becoming a bigger area. I'm also excited to see creators transcend the platforms. I mean, going back to crowdfunding and creator-led brands, I think it'll be really interesting over the next couple of years to see how creators take the Mr. Beast and Emma Chamberlain playbooks and end up building things that help them develop new IP or new products that enable them to turn into real businesses that perhaps aren't as solely reliant on them. Because at a certain point, the content creation stops right? But how do you create a generational brand that, yes, starts with you and your distribution, but there's more to it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Um, Kind of looking ahead, I'm really curious what your plans are and your future goals are too for what you're doing at Creator Economy NYC and your other business, but also for yourself as a creator.
Yeah. So on the business end, one, I'll start with Kickstarter. I'm really excited to see the future of that and what we're able to build at the company and how we can be an authoritative company in the creator economy that is there to help build creators and help them launch their ideas, and that we're top of mind with their teams and with themselves when they're thinking about that next step. So I'm excited for that and to see a lot of cool creator projects come through that I want to boast about and be like, look what we were able to get on the platform and help bring to life. For Creator Economy NYC, I think about this every day because at this point, I mean, it's my baby. Right? I spend all the time thinking about Creator Economy NYC. What's the next event going to look like? What sponsors do I want to get involved? How should we evolve the newsletter? So I'm excited to see the events evolve and maybe start to do more intimate events like dinners and such, where we're bringing together a more curated group of people together. I'm excited to see the newsletter and the media front of Creator Economy NYC evolve. So us reporting and sharing more stories and tactics that are championing the New York City creator economy. So I just started working with someone who is basically coming on kind of as like a content producer for Creator Economy NYC, working very closely with me in ideating, what should we write about in the newsletter? Who should we interview? Maybe leaning into more short form content, which I'm hoping to have coming soon. And then from there, kind of just bringing the community down the funnel to maybe it's launching like more premium community experiences, or maybe there's a conference in the near future that may make sense, right? How can we really create the East Coast VidCon in New York City, but have it actually be really successful, right? Like I think that's certainly a possibility. And then for Siftsy, with what I'm building, I'm really excited for comment sections to become truly recognized as a metric to be paying attention to, along with engagement rate and likes and shares and all that stuff, right? Comment sections help tell a more holistic story. And with the tech that we're building, I think that it's going to help marketers choose better creators to work with, and also for creators and managers to land better deals because they can better storytell in terms of like, hey, you see the amount of likes and engagement that I get on my posts and impressions, but look what people are saying. They're really leaned in. They really care. That's something that I certainly believe in. So there's a lot certainly going on that I'm focused on from a professional standpoint, but they all tie into the creator economy. They all support one another. And so I'm definitely excited for seeing how they kind of work together a bit more and mesh to create something really great and really exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited to watch you grow and definitely attend events as well.
Yeah, would love to have you there.
I think, as we're here kind of at the end of the interview, I'm curious, especially for the aspiring creators who want to launch a project on Kickstarter, but maybe don't feel like they have the community yet and everything. Like, how can aspiring creators really kind of prep and be ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of Kickstarter is that you don't necessarily need a big audience to launch a successful project. You just need a really great and compelling idea and to be a great storyteller around that idea. And so what has made Kickstarter so successful as a platform is that we have a community of backers and people to put your project in front of. I mean, the website gets millions of visitors per month that are coming to just look at what projects, to back. And so if you're a smaller creator, but you have a really unique idea, we welcome you to come to the platform. That's who we want. We want to create a flow of content creators who don't need to wait until they have 1 million followers to launch their next thing.
Yeah.
They may have the idea right now, but just need the funding and support to make it happen and the validation. Well, Kickstarter is here for you. And we want to ensure that you can bring those creative projects to life. Because again, I would say a majority of the projects on the platform don't come from individuals that have audiences previously, but they're able to launch successful campaigns and projects that actually come to life because they came to Kickstarter to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brett. This was great. Thank you for sharing all this awesome insight on crowdfunding and definitely the misconceptions. And I am excited to see who you guys onboard as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was great to answer all these questions, and I know I can ramble a little bit, but these were great, and I'm excited to talk about things more in depth as the time comes.